What are the insights you gained from the business analysis?
The insight that I got from this analysis, Tom, is when your man came to me, I was feeling overwhelmed, but I didn't feel like I needed his assistance. And what had happened was my father, it was me and my mom and my dad. It was a family-owned business. We'd all worked together for many years. My dad passed away in '07, and my mom was trying to retire. It was kind of leaving me in a position where I was in it by myself. And I knew, like I say, I was in need of assistance. Your analyst came in, he sat down with me, he spent a little time talking to me about your systems and different types of procedures and stuff that you guys work with. That was the information that I needed. I asked him, I still was skeptical of the situation, so I asked him to leave. He did leave for a little bit, came back, sat down with me again, and the second time we spent about 4 or 5 hours talking about all the different systems and procedures that needed to be put into place. And he was just feeding me tidbits of information, and the information he was giving me was making really good sense to me. That's kind of when the light bulb came on, and I decided that I needed help, and you guys had the help that I needed.
Well, when the initial guy came in, it was supposed to be about an hour, and it ended up taking about an hour and a half, and I was just getting really antsy because I was working in the business a lot. I was out crawling on the presses, I was taking material to the people, I was just doing everything in the business. And when he sat me down to talk to me, he asked me questions that were, important and core, but I didn't feel that they were important at the time. And one of the questions was, do you want to make money? Well, of course, who doesn't want to make money? And I was agitated that he would ask me a question like that. But I was also agitated that I was pulled off the floor. I had to go. I didn't have time to sit here and talk to this guy. But he kept talking, and he was persistent, which was great because I needed it. He gave me a set of homework papers to take home that night. And I took them home, and I was looking over them and still a little frustrated. Who is this guy? Because you kind of think as a business owner that you know everything. It's my company. I know what I'm doing. And as I got looking through this stuff, one thing that struck me was the mom and pop versus corporate culture. And all the questions, you had to circle the answers, and every answer I circled was on the mom and pop side of the business. And in my head, we were corporate business. So I knew right then that things weren't going the way that I thought they were going. So the next day I came in, and he came back, and I just waved the white flag, and I said, okay, I'll listen to you, whatever you got to say.
How do the consultants help you create a productivity-based compensation plan?
Well, they helped us put together a matrix that showed the metrics of what we had put together previously in the plan. So it was based on sales, it was based on productivity, it was based on scrap to show an overall profitability. So we were able to take the wages of our operators and give a percentage. So everybody was percentage based, which was really fair to everybody in the shop. They were excited about it because we put the results of their productivity on the floor. So and it was also compared to the goal that we had set for them. So they were able to see how they were doing every day, which made a huge impact on their productivity. But it also made a huge impact in the plan as a whole because it created camaraderie between the shifts. And it was kind of a competition between who could get the best productivity between the shifts.
Steve, how did you benefit from the financial reporting system the consultants put in place for you?
Gave us predictors. It gave us good predictors for purchasing, which are key in this business, is knowing when to purchase, how much you can purchase, and knowing when purchases are going to be available from manufacturers. That's something that's different in our business, I think, than some others, is there are going to be excesses of supply from distributors and manufacturers at certain points of the year where we may want to take advantage of those anticipation buys, and without a cash flow, weekly cash management summary, cash flow forecast for the long term, we wouldn't know if we could take advantage of those discounts that are provided to us by the manufacturers and distributors of parts and bicycles. So the cash flow and the cash management were key to that. The other piece that really became apparent to us, which is just a basic tool in any business, is how do we know when we've covered our expenses? And we now have a break-even analysis that will change year to year, but we know what it is for this year, and we just crossed the threshold actually the other day, and it was great because all of a sudden now we know that our basic expenses have been covered for the year, and now we can focus on profitability. So that is the real key item here that's essential, is having those tools for both controlling expense by knowing how much money we have to pay our payables, as well as take advantage of buys, and also to know that we're going to have some money left at the end of the year instead of having a nonprofit.
I benefited from the cost controls in many different ways, primarily in the fact that it allowed me in my purchasing and on my buying side of things to be more aware of what's going on in the market, in the industry. Allowed my people to be more on top of that stuff. What they did long term for me on the financial side was give me flash reports and give me information that before I would have had to go to multiple sources to retain that information. And they showed me how to put it all together on one report and who needed to do it, because it wasn't me, but which one of my people needed to provide me with that report, which gave me all the crucial information I needed to run my business on one flash report. I look at it every Monday. It tells me where I'm at for the week, where I'm at for the month, and where I'm at for the year. By establishing the goals and then giving me that report, I can gauge where I'm at and where I need to be. And it made my life a lot easier.
How do the consultants help you meet the challenges of doing business in a recession and get ready for the upswing in the economy?
Very importantly, in a recession, we don't really know always when people are going to come in and how much they're going to spend. We can track that long term, but again, Monday morning quarterbacking doesn't do you very much good when you're looking to the future. The cash flow projection that we have allows us to do two things. It allows us to decide what we're going to buy and when we're going to buy it and how much of we're going to buy in terms of inventory. And then also on the other side, it allows us to take a look at anticipation buys, when there are opportunities to buy large amounts of material at a substantial discount that we could even afford to keep for a while before we sell because the price was so low. So recessionary business strategy right now is, I've always believed that when you're ambushed, you should attack. So in a recession, I'm not going to just sit back and just take it and give away the store. We have to be conscious that people are looking for a deal more than they ever were. But so part of it is having those tools to tell me how much margin do I have to give up in order to sell enough to make this business profitable, but not get a position going here where people go, oh, well, they just give everything away over there, so that we get ready for the upswing. In the upswing, we don't want to be known as the bargain basement of bicycles. So without those tools, those business metric tools of cash flow, cash management, looking at our budget to date, looking at break even, looking at all the tools that were developed for us, we'd have no way to do this. We'd have no way to operate efficiently in a recession, and we are moving into an upswing. We've seen that in the last year. We are getting better.
Greg, describe to me what your business was like before you brought in our team of business experts and how it has changed for the better today.
Well, Tom, prior to the team of experts consultation, our business operated much like a wagon wheel. Myself, the business owner, being the hub, having to touch everything, managing from observation. A lot of times the management was done after hours, and working 80 hours a week was pretty much my lifestyle. Since the consultation, the processes and procedures that were implemented have helped me to work a 40-hour week, run and operate a very successful business, also improving my personal quality of life, enabling me to spend more time with my family, enjoy doing things that I like to do, coach rocket football, bow hunt, etc. So if I were asked by one of your prospects, I would highly recommend a consultation with your organization.
I was at the point in my career where I was feeling very insecure. I was making decisions that were blind. I was not functional, and I was not functioning well. I was working a lot of hours to achieve very little as far as goals. I was overwhelmed. it has put me back in control, back in the driver's seat, allowed me to run a more productive operation with considerably less man hours and considerable amounts of control.
30 years ago, my husband and I started Craig Tire Company, and my son has always played a very active part, even from a very young age, in decisions and that sort of thing that go on within our company. And my husband always had the last word on everything. It was his company, so to speak. And I think when he all of a sudden died in 2007, he wasn't there to consult with. He wasn't there to ask questions of. And I think that at that point, J.R. stepped in and was trying very hard to manage his dad's tire companies. And we went through all of these different things, all of these different steps, phases. The company, in a sense, became uniquely John's, my son's company, so that he was no longer managing Dad's company, he was managing his companies. And he was able to manage them at a much higher level, do a lot as far as critical decision making, and it gave him a lot more self-confidence, and it enabled him to see the direction that the company was actually headed in and make decisions. And I think that took a lot of pressure off me too, because I no longer had to wonder if something happened to me tomorrow, like with my husband, what would JR do? He'll be fine. He will continue to implement and grow. I have no doubt of that.
What benefit did you get from the STA strategic tax planning for you and your business?
When the consultants came to me, they came to me with three things that I should look at. One was tax planning, one was estate planning, and the other one was liability for the company. I felt that I'd paid good money over the years for experts locally, and I felt that it was time that another set of eyes should look at all of those things. It was comforting for me to have the consultants do that and come back to me with suggestions. They gave me several ways to save money on taxes. I've implemented some of those and very grateful for that. When the economy improves or goes down, I've got those at my beck and call to use. As far as the estate planning, you always are worried about your family. It's always nice to have a second set of eyes look and make sure you've done the right things. They question several things, but I'm very comfortable with my estate planning at this point. The thing that I probably have used the most is the liability protection for the core company. They pointed out to me that in my business there is a lot of liability in what I do. And breaking it up into separate LLCs or professional corporations made a lot of sense, and it makes me feel more comfortable that the core company is protected from a legal suit. It's a very litigious business that I'm in, and it does come for me to know that I've done that. And what we've done is separate the real estate from the core company. We've done that in 2 locations. We have separated the fleet of trucks and pickups that I have into a separate leasing company, so that if there is ever an accident, certainly the leasing company is the first one to get hit, and the core company is protected. And the last thing we did was I have several engineers working for me, and we broke the engineers out into a professional corporation so that their liability is now separate from the core company. It's very easy for my insurance company to rate each one of those, and actually it saved me money from an insurance standpoint. To see, they can actually see the separation of liability now, and it's actually resulted in savings to me.
There are many issues that you'll come across in a company where you may be involved in lawsuits, and your company is involved in lawsuits, and it actually the company can be taken over, dissolved to pay for this lawsuit. And one of the biggest fears that I had was we had a portion of our corporation that was involved in day-to-day deliveries within, say, an 800-mile radius of product that was manufactured. We put it on a trailer, which was hauled by a truck, and they would deliver this and, in some cases, install it. And I had told my son that one of my greatest fears was that one of these days the trailer would come loose, or the driver would get involved in a jackknife situation or whatever, and that we would be involved in a large lawsuit. And although we had several $1 million in coverage, that it would go beyond this if there's a loss of life, serious injury, and so forth, that we could be wiped out. And so it was suggested that we break up that entity and form a corporation, an S corporation, in which it is simply the delivery and installation portion of the business. They contract with a major part of the corporation. They're a separate, standalone corporation. So that if this does happen and a lawsuit occurs, they own that business. They own the trucks, they own the trailers. They don't own the major portion of the business. It's gone, and that's it. And I did have occasion to actually have that happen. One day on a busy interstate during rush hour, the driver had unloaded, and this made the trailer bouncier because it wasn't heavily loaded on the hitch, and it actually came off the hitch and pulled loose and broke the safety change. So here we were going down a road with a loose trailer. The driver was alert enough so that he applied the brakes and kept in front of the trailer. The trailer kept banging and banging, and as he tried to slow its speed and kind of get it under control. He was able to get it off to the side of the highway, kind of, before it got underneath him and actually tipped the truck over and the trailer and totally destroyed both vehicles. The driver was able to crawl out a window, and as he appeared on the side of the road, many of the people that were behind him stopped to see if they could be of assistance. And 2 or 3 of them stayed until the state police arrived, and they wanted to give testimony for him about what a great job he had done in containing that trailer. He hadn't taken off and left it, and how he probably avoided loss of life or serious injury to several of the people that were involved in that immediate area. So it gave me a good feeling that we were able to do that, and we didn't actually have a lawsuit, but it also gave me a peace of mind in knowing that had we been involved in a large lawsuit, only that small entity of the business would have been lost.